Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and this is an advanced tutorial on Swing GUI programming in Java. And in fact, it's the second tutorial in the series. And in the last tutorial, we looked at creating a basic Swing app with no components on it, just a basic frame here. And in this tutorial, we're going to add some components to this frame. So I'm going to go at quite a pace here because I'm going to try to fit this into roughly 10 minutes if possible. Firstly, you need to create a custom version of JFrame. So I'm going to call this main frame. I'm going to make that extend JFrame. Finish. And because I want to slot that in here, and because I'm using this constructor that takes a string, I'll just implement that constructor here as well. So I'll say public main frame string title, and I'll just call super title here. Okay, and then I'll slot that in here. So instead of JFrame, I'll create a main frame, and that should function just as before. But what I can now do is I can add components here, and there are three kind of stages to adding components into a Swing frame. First, you need to set the layout manager, and the layout manager is what decides how to arrange your components on the frame. Then you need to create Swing components, and finally you need to add your Swing components to the not the JFrame directly, but to its content pane. So now in the next tutorial we will look at an advanced layout manager, GridBagLayout, that's very flexible. But in this tutorial I'm just going to use a really simple layout called, I'll do set layout, and I'll say new border layout. And border layout just lets you add components to the top, bottom, left, right and center of the frame. So really it's just intended to build up a kind of basic frame where you might have a big panel in the center and you might have a toolbar at the top and that kind of thing. But here I'm just going to use it because it's simple. And I'm going to have two Swing components here. I'm going to create a J text area, which is a big area where you can type text, equals new J text area. And Swing components usually start with a J, and then the second letter is also capitalized. And I'll have a J button, which you can guess what that is, equals new J button. And I'll say here in the constructor, I'll specify the text that I want to put on the button. I'll just say click me. And at this point I want to briefly take a diversion to tell you about three web pages. If you go to Google and type WindowBuilderPro, you'll find there's actually an Eclipse plugin that lets you visually design Swing components, Swing applications. But I don't know if you could create Swing applications just using this. You'll probably at least find it useful to know how to do this manually anyway. But this is great. It's an Eclipse plugin and it lets you switch between your code and the visual representation of it. So certainly install that. And then if you type Visual Guide Swing Layout into Google, you get a visual guide to the different layout managers. And actually you can mostly get by, and all the Java programmers known, including myself, tend actually just to use a layout manager called GridBagLayout here, which is the most flexible of the layout managers, and you can pretty much use that for nearly everything, but it's helpful to know one or two of the others as well. And finally, if you type Swing Visual Guide into Google, then you get a guide to all the different Swing components that you can use. And if you click on these links, you can get kind of code that shows you how to use them, which is incredibly useful. And we're using this text area here, as well as a J button, which is here. Okay, so back to this. I've set the layout, I've created my components. I'm going to add them to the content pane. So I'm got the content pane as type container. I'm going to call it C. I wouldn't normally use, sorry, not get container, but get content pane. So to get the content pane, which you add the components to, call get content pane. Call that method of JFrame. And the content pane has type container, and I'm calling it C here. I wouldn't normally use just one letter for a variable, but because I might need to type this over and over again and it's pretty clear what it is, I'm going to just give it a one letter name here. Then to add the components, you just type c.add. It's pretty simple. And then you need to, in the case of BorderLayout, you need to specify a constant of the BorderLayout class, static constant, that specifies where the component should go. And so I want to put the text area in the center. So I'll say BorderLayout.center, and the button I want to put at the bottom of the pane. So I can say BorderLayout.south to add it to the bottom. There's a bunch of different constants in BorderLayout. There's page start and page end, which I think just adds to the top of the frame and the bottom. Line start, line end adds to the left and right, but you can also use north, south, east and west kind of compass points as well. And so now I just need to do Control-Shift-O to add the import for the container. And if I run this, I will get this. I've got my button here and I've got my text area here that I can type stuff in. Now I'm just going to add quickly to finish up this tutorial something that will respond to the button click here. So I can say kind of add behavior here, and to detect when a button is clicked, I call button jbutton.add action listener, and the action listener expects a class that implements the action listener interface. So I'll type action listener here. I'll say here new action listener. I'm going to use an anonymous class to listen to this button, and I put round brackets here and do Control-Shift-O to add the import. And then I'll open a curly brace here because this is just an interface, it's not a class, and I need to implement the kind of methods that the interface specifies in here. So I'll click on this, and well, I need to import it. It didn't do that evidently. And then if I click on it again, it'll say add unimplemented methods. And it's just got one method here, action performed, and this is called when your button is clicked. And what I'm going to do just to demonstrate this working is I can say text area dot set text. So actually there's also an append text append, and I'll say append hello, and I'll put a new line in here with /n as well, just to make it a bit more interesting and nicer. And the reason I'm getting an error here is because, of course, if you have an anonymous class, you can't refer to local variables unless they are final. So I could either add this text area up here as an instance variable, but the quickest thing to do is just declare it final here, so it's constant, and now I can refer to it. So if I run this, now if I click this button, it adds text to my text area. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. We've covered really a lot of stuff here. I'm going to put this code on caveofprogramming.com so you can look at it at your leisure and try to customize it if you want to. And as I say, in the next tutorial we will look at GridBagLayout, which lets you kind of add components more flexibly, and in particular it will fix this problem of the fact that the button has just expanded to take up all the size that's available to it here, which isn't ideal for a button. Okay, so join me again for the next tutorial, and as I say, this code will be on caveofprogramming.com, and until next time, happy coding.